When you walk into a church, whether it's a building that you own, whether you rent, or maybe it's a house church, it meets in your house or someone else's house, or maybe you're just squatting in a house that nobody else wants to live in. But that is where your church meets. And when you walk in, do you notice the little things? You know, the small stuff that you may overlook because you've walked past them 1,000 times. And yet, these are things that somebody else who's new or visiting may notice immediately. And then they question what you really value. And it may actually distract them from the good news that you are trying to share with them. You may know how to preach. You may know how to lay hands on people and pray for them. But the critical eye is something that may affect your ministry. And it's certainly something they don't teach in pastor school.
When I was a little boy in pastor school, nobody was happy. I had high blood pressure. And I started crying. Daddy told me to meet him in front of the liquor store.
Today we're going to learn about having an eye for excellence. Oh, and as we get started, be sure to leave us a comment about something that you have noticed with your critical eye in your own church. So what is the critical eye? I've heard of the evil eye. I've even heard of the monkey eye. I have absolutely been given the stink eye. And I can even make myself have the wonky eye. None of those are necessarily useful in a church environment. So I have a friend who's a pastor, and I went to go visit his church. I'd never been there before. And as I walked into the building, the first thing that I noticed was this large brown watermark stain that was on the ceiling of his foyer, or the foyer, or the narthex, or the vestibule, or the lobby. And so I asked him, "Hey, what's that?" And he told me the story, which was about 6 months prior. They had had an air conditioning leak and water had dripped down onto the ceiling from the attic and left that mark. So I asked him, "Has anybody tried to fix it?" And he said what a lot of pastors say. "I've tried to get some volunteers to come and work on it. And all of them have said yes, but nobody has done it yet. And I hate to keep asking because it makes me feel pushy." Now, this was the first thing that I noticed when I walked into his church. And I'm fairly certain that other people have walked into his church for the first time, and that was the first thing that they noticed. And the message people can infer from that is, this place doesn't really take care of things. Scientifically, we know that 55% of communication is nonverbal. But since your church can't actually speak, what is your building or your church environment saying about you? So here's what a critical eye is. 1, it's simply noticing everything in your church building. B, it's seeing things from somebody else's perspective, perhaps the perspective of a confused or nervous first-time visitor. Ampersand. And then asking yourself, how does this fit with our church values and with our value of excellence? And Q, figuring out what to do about it. Now, some people will say that this is just nitpicking, that you're trying to be a perfectionist. Some will accuse you of taking your eyes off of ministry or off of Jesus in order to do things like rolling up the hose outside, or pick weeds, or fixing that door to the sanctuary that bangs every time it closes. I hate to admit this, but even in my own house, there are things that I've just stopped noticing. You see, we can miss some things that other people will see and notice immediately. And these things may communicate, however unfairly, that things here are done half-assed. But if we're going to be proper stewards of the things that God has entrusted to us, we have to take ownership of even the little things. Jesus himself said, Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much. Here's how the critical eye works. First, get something on which to write. It can be a mobile phone. It can be a pear pad. It can be your pants leg. One of my very favorite things is writing on a yellow legal pad with a red pen. Then, walk around your church. Walk inside and out. Look in the closets. Look in the classrooms. Notice everything and take copious notes. Look at every nook and cranny, every piece of art, every light bulb, every sign, and all of the paint. And notice every smell. And as you're thinking about it, ask yourself, does this represent who we are or who we want to be? Ask, what does this say to our guests and first-time visitors? And ask yourself, does this cause confusion or distraction? So here is a practical approach. Get in your car, drive down the street, pull into a Chicken King, a Burger Queen, a McCarl's, and then imagine yourself as somebody different. What I would do was I would imagine myself as a new mom driving a minivan with a stroller and a baby and towing a U-Haul with all the stuff that new moms have to carry around for their baby. Then turn around and drive to the church and pull into the parking lot. Are the church signs old, faded, decrepit, and outdated? Is there anybody outside that looks friendly? Is it very clear where you are supposed to park? Are there people there who show you where to park? Might there be somebody there who will help you with your butt ton of baby stuff? And hey, do you have a greeter that's got resting monkey eye? Take time to carefully notice everything about your church environment. Then ask yourself, what could make this better? If you don't have a critical or strategic eye, well, then find somebody who does and use their critical eye. Hey, find another pastor. Quietly find an elder maybe from another church. You could find a business person. You could find somebody in construction or in architecture or design. You could borrow somebody who is in marketing or in public relations. See if you can get somebody who's in advertising and use their critical eye. Now, this picture isn't necessarily a big deal, but it will be our final example.
That ain't Peter's church.
Well, that one was kind of obvious. But maybe it will give you some idea of how other people may view your church and how serious they may actually take you. Hey, leave us a comment about something you have seen with your critical eye. Or leave us a comment about something you've seen in another church with your critical eye. Don't name names. And be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with what's going on and not miss any videos that are coming. Oh, and next time, we're going to be talking about the critical eye, first impressions, and the exterior of your church. So subscribe so you don't miss it, because the critical eye is something they don't teach in pastor school.